Today is my second Ampuversary. Time flies when you're having fun. In honor of the dearly departed, let's take a moment to reflect on what those first 2 years were like, and to make a goal or two for the future. One of my big questions after amputation was, what's the recovery timeline? I spent 3 days in the hospital, followed by 2 weeks in a rehabilitation center, though that can vary from patient to patient. I had physical therapy a few times a day, but the real focus was on pain management, especially when phantom limb pain started up a week post-amputation.
It's so annoying. Lefty! Knock it off! My foot is getting stabbed.
That was the most intense period of recovery. From week 1 until week 7, phantom limb pain was off the charts. But it didn't last forever. At 7 weeks post-op, I started to notice a gradual improvement. Half a year later, I realized, to my delight, that I hardly noticed my phantom limb anymore. But when did I get a prosthetic leg? The process began at 4 weeks post-amputation. I was given a compression sock called a shrinker and was required to wear it for 2 weeks before we could start the process of making a prosthesis. At 6 weeks post-op, a mold was made of my leg. Different clinics do things different ways, but my prosthetist had me come in every week for 3 weeks for something called a test socket, which is made of plastic and can be adjusted until things feel just right. This test socket was then turned into a permanent carbon fiber socket. I officially received my first prosthetic leg and started walking 10 weeks after amputation. That was faster than getting back to walking after foot surgery. I was so stoked. This is where my story goes off the rails. While getting used to walking, I developed a stress fracture in my remaining foot, which triggered a condition called complex regional pain syndrome, the same condition that was in my amputated leg. I spent my first Ampuversary wondering if my only foot was going to meet the same fate as Lefty. I'll link a playlist if you're new here and missed the drama. Thanks to an incredible doctor who gave me groundbreaking bisphosphonate infusions, we were able to beat the CRPS and save my foot. It was a crazy year. Whereas my first year as an amputee was about recovery, my second year was about establishing a new normal, not just physically. People don't always think about it, but being an amputee impacts your identity. I was a martial artist before amputation. What am I now? The mental and emotional side of such a drastic life change is bound to catch up sooner or later. For me, it came during my second year. I think the delay was because right after amputation, I was excited to get a leg. I hadn't been able to walk for a couple years, so I was very focused on what I was gaining, namely the ability to stand up again. Then when my life encountered new plot twists, I was plunged into survival mode. I'm sure it varies person to person, but for me, there has been a definite delay in dealing with the emotional side of healing. I'd expected my second year to be a time when I'd start living again and start doing more and more things on my prosthesis. Unfortunately, in keeping with my dramatic track record, this past year had more unexpected medical issues. Some of it was a domino effect from being in a wheelchair for a couple years. Other injuries were just bad luck. I broke a bone, had some back problems, and developed a bursa in my residual limb. The back problems triggered fresh phantom limb pain and issues in my good leg. I was bedridden for a few months, but in a surprise reversal, I'm back on my feet, renovating the house to make it wheelchair friendly. Life as an amputee is full of extremes. When I'm doing well, I'm very active. When I'm not well, I'm really unwell, as various medical issues compound each other. But I think that's par for the course. Whether you lost your leg due to diabetes or a major car accident, there's a pretty good chance that you'll deal with other medical issues even if your leg is doing well. The good news is, amputees are some of the most doggedly resilient people out there, so I'm convinced that we can get through just about anything. Looking forward to my third year as an amputee, I really want to bike again. Once upon a time, I hardly ever used my car and just hauled my kids around in a bike trailer. Gas is expensive and biking is fun, so I want to start doing it again. I'll be sure to film the process, so subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss it. My other goal is to get back into martial arts. It was a core part of my pre-amputation life, and I'm convinced it's still attainable, even if it'll be different as an amputee. I want to explore what my body can do, rather than accept limitations that may not even be valid. Just because I don't see other people doing the things I want to do, doesn't mean they aren't possible. After all, the greatest limitations are usually found in the mind. With that mindset, I'm grateful to have made it to my second Ampuversary. Even though I have one foot in the grave, I'm sure there are many grand adventures ahead. Thanks for celebrating my Ampuversary with me. Here's that playlist I promised you about how I was in danger of a second amputation. I'm pretty sure my life is a soap opera, but at least I'm still standing. Figuratively.